So you and I, we are most like Jesus when we serve. And I want to welcome you to session 5 of the Equip Discipleship Training. And in this session, we're going to talk about the third behavior of a disciple, which is to serve. And it's really service evangelism. I love talking about serving. There's probably 2 things that I love talking about the most. That's serving and generosity. And I love talking about those because I really do believe that when we act in those, when we actually serve and we're actually generous, that we are most like Jesus when we do that. Now, how do I know that? Well, frankly, Jesus in his own words said that he came to serve and not to be served. If you want to be great, you got to be the least of these. You got to learn how to serve. And in the context of discipleship, a fully devoted follower of Jesus who is connected and growing is also going to serve. It's our third behavior. Serving blesses you just as much as other people. I think you probably realize that. Those of you that have ever served before, even if it's hard and time consuming and it's a lot of your energy and maybe it's not the best environment, when we serve and give of ourselves, it actually blesses us just as much as other people. Whether that's serving at a local high school, whether that's serving in our community, serving our family, even serving overseas somewhere. We go overseas and we serve, and oftentimes I come back just as much, if not more blessed than the people we go to do. Well, why does that happen? Well, because serving unlocks something inside of us that is not natural to us. Think about it. We are selfish beings from birth. If you've ever had a toddler or been around toddlers, you hear the word mine a lot. Everything is theirs. Mine, 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 mine. They just have this tendency that whether it's a toy, whether it's something they don't have, something you have, everything belongs to them. It is mine. That's kind of the mentality that we seem to almost be born with. And it's against our natural habits to serve somebody, which means to me that a big part of serving is spiritual. That it is a spiritual thing. So when we serve, and maybe you never thought of it this way, when you serve in your flesh, when you're physically serving somebody somewhere, you are unlocking amazing parts of the Spirit of God inside of you. And when it comes to evangelism and service evangelism, this Bible we have is good news. In fact, it is the gospel, which means good news. But here's something I heard a long time ago. The gospel is only good news if it gets there on time. This gospel is only good news if people hear it. This gospel is only good news if it gets there to the right people at the right time. And you and I, we get to have the opportunity, hopefully the desire, because as a fully devoted follower of Jesus, part of my behavior has got to be the desire to serve and to give people the good news. I want to spend the rest of our time giving us the 5 steps of outreach. We've simplified it. You can make these as complicated as you can, but I wanted to give you a very practical way to implement service evangelism. So here we go, 5-step outreach. Number 1, if you're going to reach people, guess what you got to do? Well, you probably guessed it. You've got to spend time with people. There's no getting around that. If we're going to go make disciples, well, we got to see people come to get saved. Like, where are disciples coming from? Well, disciples come from people who are saved. Well, how are people getting saved? Well, it's like people like me and you going and spending time with people with the hope that one day we're going to share our story with them. So if we're going to reach people, if we're going to serve people, you got to spend time with people. The second step is that while you're spending time with people, you are actually listening to them. Truly listening is one of the greatest ways we show we care. When we are locked onto somebody, when we're looking at somebody, when they're talking to us, when we are actively listening, we are showing that we care. I'm sure you've been in conversations before where you were talking to somebody and you notice the other person was just looking right through you. They were looking at something else. They were looking at their watch. They were looking at their phone. They were distracted. When that happens, it doesn't show you that they care. And so as we're spending time with people, practice active listening with them. Be dialed in, be present in the moment, because it leads to the third step. And the third step is that because we're spending time with them, because we're listening to them, the third step is now we know how to pray for them and their needs. Again, to me, it just takes kind of our prayer life to a different level. Instead of just praying for you, Now I can pray for you and the things you're going through. Maybe you're going through stuff with your family. So now I can pray for you and your family. Maybe you got a job situation that you're praying about or you're worried about, and I could be praying for you and that stress. Maybe it's a health issue. You see what I'm saying? When we're spending time with people and we're actively listening, we're listening for ways to pray for them. And we're also, the fourth step is we're also listening and watching for ways to practically serve them. So practically serving is a key thing. Because I'm listening to you, I'm not only knowing how I can pray for you, but now I know how I can serve you better. And again, maybe you've been sick and so you've not been able to do yard work and it's stressing you out. What a simple way it is for me just to get my lawnmower and go cut your grass. Maybe you're so busy, you haven't had a date night. And so my wife and I will watch your kids for you so you guys can go out on a date night because we listen to that. You see what I'm saying? If we're not listening, we don't know how to pray for somebody, and we certainly don't know how to serve them, which leads to the fifth step. And the fifth step is that prayerfully, because you've been praying for them and serving them, at some point you will have an opportunity to share your story. That's why we kind of talked almost in the very first sessions or one of the first sessions about, do you know your story? Do you know how to share your story? See, it's important for you to actually know how to share your story because you never know. You could be simply serving a neighbor and all of a sudden they say, why are you so nice to us? Why out of all of our neighbors, why do you care? Why do you care what's going on in our life? Why are you bringing me dinner when I was sick? Why are you doing that? And instead of saying, well, I'm just being a good neighbor, what an opportunity to work in the why, part of your story. Makes sense, doesn't it? 5 practical steps of outreach. You gotta spend time with people, actively listen to them, pray for them and their needs, serve them, and share your story with them. That is key. So here are the final questions as we wrap up session 5, the third behavior of a disciple, serve. Here's some questions. Where has God put you? Your job, your school, your community. Who has God put around you? Coworkers, neighbors, classmates. What has God opened for you to do? Where can you serve? Where can you fill a practical need? How can you share the good news with them? So there we go, session 5, very practical session on serving. Thanks again for joining us. I really look forward to having you joining us on our next session, session 6.